Brock Boeser and Philip Hronek.
Okay. So this is the deal. You have to be understanding and not get lost in the sauce of this run where you just spent how many years bitching and moaning about Brock Boeser and will he become the guy and whatever. And you're in a position now where he's leading the NHL with 17 goals. Don't forget how much time you spent complaining about him. That players can have one-off years where they do really well. But for the majority, like, I don't think Devon Toews is going to be a 50-point defenseman again. For the majority, they are what they are, and they are what they showed, and they have those one-off years. Philip Hronek's a little different in that, listen, Philip Hronek is going, and he's going to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
The problem here is, if you're going to give Philip Hronek $8+ million, and I look at this defense, and this defense is built around Quinn Hughes, do you go and say, you could almost get more assets for Philip Hronek now than you did Bo Horvat? And that money you're saving, the $8 million, you're selling high on someone like Philip Hronek. That $8 million, if you go around and you say, okay, if I find someone on the market, if it's like I find a Brandon Carlo for Quinn Hughes, who I think is Quinn Hughes' perfect partner to have, it's great, and you find another defenseman at $4 million plus the assets that you got. All I'm arguing is that you have 3 years, let's say, left with Quinn Hughes. I think Philip Hronek's a really great player. I think his offensive stats are a little overinflated because he's playing with Quinn Hughes. And
of course.
Now you have 3 years left with Quinn. If you sign Philip Hronek to that 7-8 year deal, and Quinn at the end of these 3 years says, you know what, I'm good. I don't know. I want to go to Jersey. I just want to do that. That's what I want to do. Now you're stuck with Philip Hronek, still a great defenseman, good defenseman, but at like 4 or 5 years remaining at the salary you gave him when he played with Quinn Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
And now Quinn's not here. All I'm saying is that in order to be a franchise that competes for 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever years, those are kind of the unique, hard decisions that you have to make in that you sell high. And maybe the player you sell high on is someone that's beloved or having a great year, but you also tell yourself, I just spent 3 years of my life trying to trade the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to think that he bounces back and he is going to be that person for the remainder of his contract with us. History tells you that they have the one-off year, and then they regress back to what they normally are.
Yeah.
So, like, Kuzmenko would be a really great opportunity. Like, Kuzmenko, 39 goals, crazy shooting percentage. And now we're kind of seeing maybe he's more of like a 25-30 guy.
Yeah.
That's all I'm arguing. And especially with Philip Hronek, where I'm like, it's great that you got the right-handed guy.
Yeah.
But Alan Walsh has enough knife in the back memes in his little folder. Like, he's prepared. He's gonna get Philip Hronek paid. Unless Alan Walsh is like, listen, we got you here. Here's 6 times 6.6.5. No trade clause. Full on, like, you're on. You got a bag. Don't worry about it. Sure. But if he's going and he's gonna be like, yeah, it starts at 8. Okay, whoa, partner. Whoa, girl. Whoa. That's all I'm saying.
How old's Hronek right now?
I think he's 26.
Is there a chance
I think he just turned 26 in November.
Is there a chance we could see the short-term trend to have his deal wrap up before he's 30 and maybe at a little bit less?
You could.
And then you could make that argument saying, I'll sign a deal that wraps up when Quinn's deal wraps up, and then you really got to figure out your shit.
So the thing with Philip Hronek, you could probably do that and say, like, hey, you know what? Sign a 3-year extension that takes you to 30-31, and then you're probably going to come off another, after a year with Quinn again.
Yeah.
And now cash in the bag. But I think Alan Walsh is going to be like, no, you just played with Quinn. You got a bunch of points. Cash in now. Because you're actually a 40-point guy. You're actually 40, for maybe 45 point. Ryan, he has 25 points in 23 games.
Well,
it's crazy.
You look at, I would say, his time with Detroit is a much more realistic sample size of what type of points he would get on another team, not with one of the best defensemen in the league.
Listen, he played with Lidstrom, right? So he didn't.
No, he didn't.
I know, that's the joke. That's the joke.
Sorry. So I'm thinking you got 1 year sample size. You have a injury hampered previous season. That's a good argument in the Canucks camp to say you've had one good year. You are an RFA. We could go to arbitration on that, or I don't know if you can, but like signing him to a deal now is beneficial based on only having one quality year, and we don't know how the rest of this year is going to go. But you could lock him down instead of, we're going to have you do 3 years with Quinn. Maybe he is the bee's knees, the cat's pajamas, and has a 60, 70-point season for 3 straight years. Then you're royally screwed in what he's worth. Like, now's the time to sign him to something if his trajectory is really on the up and up, like we fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I would. Honestly, that's all I'm just like, I just don't want Canucks fans to kind of get wrapped up and focused on like this year, and thinking that this year.
We live year by year.
Listen, for auxiliary players, I'm not worried about Quinn. I'm not worried about Petey. To some extent, I'm not worried about JT Miller. I'm not worried about Thatcher Demko for the most part. I'm just saying, like, you still got to get Petey signed. Like, think about this offseason. You got to get Petey signed. You got to get Hronek signed. You got to get Lafferty signed. You got to get Zadorov signed.
The term Lafferty signed, the Toronto Maple Leafs couldn't even do that.
Pal, listen, he's the icon. He's the franchise. Sam Lafferty, so great. And then, so you also have that, and that you also have the OEL penalty ramping up. So just to be mindful of, like, listen, like,
how quickly we forget about that one.
Yeah, and it's like, listen, I want you to have your cake and eat it too. I really do. But just. I think they'll look at it. They'll probably be like, okay, if they have talks with Alan Walsh and Alan Walsh starts at 8.5, they'll be like, God